أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد ومحمد. يا إخواني وأخواتي, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear brothers and sisters, may the peace of Allah be upon you, inshallah. So we continue with our lecture about the article of Siti Muliana, treading the footsteps of Wali Songo as the shaper of Islam Nusantara tradition. So, very interesting, overlapping topic with the lecture I made on this particular book, The Faith and Strength, La Foi et la Force in French, which is a book about martial art initiation in the field of Penchak Silat, and more particularly in the region of Banten, so part of northern West Java island of Indonesia. So point B, overview of the entry of Islam in the archipelago. So overview, context of the entry of Islam in the archipelago from the recent time to also the earlier first entry of Islam as a religion in this particular area. Since long ago, the ancestors of the Indonesian people were known as master sailors, who were able to explore the high seas. Shipping and trade routes between the Indonesian and other nations have been found since the early centuries AD. So since the time of the demise of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, in the early century after his demise, the routes and the maritime mastership of ancestor of actual Indonesian was strong at that time. And this is also present in the book of Badr Yatim, Shejara Peradaban Islam. So page 191. So it is a book. Shejara in Indonesian, in Bahasa, is the same as Shajara in Arabic. In Arabic, it means a tree. So Shajara, a tree. And in Indonesia, it is more used to for the term history. So for the term tarikh in Arabic. So in fact, here Shajara are found. Shajara or Shajara in Indonesian are found primarily in the books of history. So it is a generic term for history in this language. So a serious book from Badr Yatim, which retraces the early history of Indonesian. According to Agus Sonyoto, since the 3rd century AD, there have been boats from the archipelagos that stopped by the Indian subcontinent and the east coast of Africa. And some of them migrated to the island of Madagascar. So for those who don't know, Madagascar is an island in the Indian Ocean, but a big island close to the African continent, what is called now African continent. In the past, in the Islamic terminology, Al-Afariq, Al-Ifriqiya was only for the northern part of Africa as a continent. So under Africa, you have Bilad al-Sudan, for example, which is the land inhabited by black people under sub-Saharan people, and between the black, even between the black, there is a distinction with the Bantu in terms of patriarchal ethnicity and what is called the Hamitic kind, which is more related to the descendant of Cush, which is one of the son of Adam, alayhi salam, of Nuh, sorry, of Nuh, by the lineage of Adam, because Nuh was a survivor of the big flood, and was the symbol of the preservation of the Adamic descendants, and the Kainite descendants, the descendants of Qabil, la'natullah alayh, were removed at that time during the flood. So only the descendants of Adam were saved. So it is an interesting point. So the Kutchik people, even they are black, they're related to Ham, they're related to Cush, they're related to Ham. So they're Hamitic, so they are descendant of Nuh, alayhi salam, Noah. But others have an uncertain origin. They don't have maybe the same lineage. As are they considered as descendant of Kush? No. And even from their own interpretation, they descend from someone else. They even claim, which is totally false, that some of them claim in America that they are descendant from Sem, which is the ancestors of the true Hebrews, of the Arabs, of the Elamites, of the Semitic people, but not the Bantus. So there is some curses on some offsprings. Some are more elevated in degrees in the biblical element of storytelling of the origin and genesis of humanity. So there is some different understanding. And so we understand from this research from Agus Sunyoto that some people from Madagascar have origin in Indonesia, which is maybe what formed later what's called the Croatian ethnicity. Croatian ethnicity is also present in South Africa, for those who don't know, and it is not straightly related to the Bantu. They have specific identity. They don't match very good with Bantus. Maybe there is some mix with Asiatic, Afro-Asiatic mix also exists. But from this research, we know that islands like Madagascar, like Mauritius, like also Comoria, have what is called Indonesian or Melayu Austronesian. It is what the term I was searching for. Austronesian ethnicity inside their group. So it is interesting to note. So according to Agus Sunyonto, since the 3rd century AD, there have been boats from the archipelago that stopped by the Indian subcontinent and the east coast of Africa. And some of them migrated to the island of Madagascar. The story of the voyage can be found on the relief of the walls of the Borobudur temple. So there is a temple which is called Borobudur. I don't know exactly where it is, but on the relief there is a depiction of the scene. In fact, a ship craftsman from Madura had time to prove the toughness of the boat contained in the relief by making an imitation and traces of his voyage. In 2003, the ship called Samu Daraska managed to reach the mainland of Africa safely, and then the ship is stored in Samur Daraska Museum in Borobudur until today. So there is a note, there is an article which is by Noor Khalik Redwan, which is called Garakan Islam Nusantara. So Garakan is movement. It is from Arabic harakan, which means moving. Al-harakat, movements. And you found also in Japanese language the hara, which is the region, the stage of movement, which is the belly part. This is power generated from the hips. Harakiri, for example, it's referred to this region. And you have in the same root harakat, al-har, which is something hot in the siege of the belly, and is where the energy come, where the nutrients are burned by the body acids and all the stuffs. They are disseminated in from this area in the rest of the body to assume basic living function, to nourish the body, the muscles, the brain, and all that stuff. So the archipelago, especially Malacca and Maluku, is a place of concern for foreign traders. So Malacca, which is in Indonesia, in Malaysia, I think, and Maluku is a place of concern for foreign traders. In addition to its strategic location, the place has interesting commodities in the form of spices, nutmeg, and cloves. So this is, at that time, the specific resources of this place. When the Srivijaya kingdom came to power, it was recorded that since the 5th century AD, this kingdom had established diplomatic and economic relations with China. The merchant almost every year sailed to Canton, China, to trade. In 700 AD, the Srivijaya kingdom succeeded in obtaining a hotspot in the southwest of the Malay Peninsula, so that it gained power in the Malacca Strait. So there is some article of Agustina So Bachman in Shajara Nusantara Berdasarkan Urutan Tahun, Yogyakarta, Seru Media Utama, 2014, page 30. At that time, Malacca became an important shipping link. Spices from all corners of the archipelago were traded to China and India, especially Gujarat through Malacca. In the year at the same time, Muslim traders from Arabia, Persia, and India began to establish trade relation to the Indonesian archipelago. So the relation between Muslim traders from Arabia and Persia and also India were made at that time, around 700 AD, which is some years after the demise of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Previously, the Arabs had held trade relations with India since the beginning of AD. So Arabs before Islam made trading relation with India around the year 0 of the Christian calendar. Namely before the collapse of Himyar. Himyar is a dynasty of Yemen, Arabic dynasty of Yemen, of Qahtanite origin. So, Al-Arab, Al-Ariba, true Arabs. Collapse of Himyar in the age. India, which was used as the first terminal, became a liaison for the Arab to continue their journey to Sarandib, then to Indonesia. So, from this advanced position, they gain access to further expedition and opportunity of trading at the time of Islam. You can see Shajara Radaban Islam, a book of Fatah Shukur in 2012, page 178. Not only trading, Arab traders also doubled as Muslim missionaries helped spread the teaching of Islam to indigenous population. So they made not only trade, but were also making name of Islam along their trade. So they had contact with people from different faith and civilizational background, and they exchanged about their religion. According to J.C. Van Leur, estimation based on his travel story, since 674 AD, there has been a Muslim community in northwest Sumatra. So the implementation of a Muslim community in northwest Sumatra in 674 AD. So few decades after the mission of Prophet Muhammad. So very close in time. Namely in the Barus Barus area, which is famous for its camphor. In addition, there are news source from China during the Tang dynasty, which states that Arabs and Persians, known as Tashih. So I don't know what is the correct etymology of this word, but there is Tashih. So T-A space S-H-I-H. Tashih. People were already in Canton, Kanfu, and Sumatra. So to see this note, Badri Yatim, with his book Shajara Peradaban Islam, page 192. So is this word Tashih linked with maybe Tashayyu or something else? I don't know, but this is the denomination from even source news from the Tang dynasty in China. So there is some investigation to make on this particular wording, tashih, which concern Arabs and Persians. So it is not only an ethnical term, because Arab and Persians are not exactly the same, but maybe a common um, quality of both. So maybe the same religion or same madhab. So maybe it's a term for Muslim in general, or maybe more precisely to a subcategory of the Islamic faith regarding Arabs and Persians. Historically, the early entry of Islam into Indonesia is still a debate among historians. Various historical sources, in the form of physical items such as tombs, ancient manuscripts, as well as records of travelers, as well as non-physical items such as culture and custom that have been found, seems to have given rise to various theories put forward by historians about the entry of Islam in Indonesia, and also political agenda. It is the biggest in modern history. It is the biggest level of research. So of the many arguments that exist, there are two theories that are the most powerful. The first opinion believes that Islam began to enter Indonesia since the 7th century AD. This opinion was expressed by W.P. Grunwald, Sheikh Muhammad Naqub Al-Attas, T.W. Arnold, George Fadlo Hurani, Hamka, J.C. van Leur, and Uka Jandrasa Smita. This theory states that the arrival of Islam to Indonesia was caused by the existence of trade relations between East and West Asia. So for those who don't know, Middle East is in fact West Asia. So East Asia is the extreme Orient, and West Asia is the land dominated by Arab and Persians. Especially after the establishment of three major empires, such as the Umayyad dynasty, which was based in Balad al-Sham, in Syria. Umayyad dynasty, 660 to 749 AD, in West Asia. So Middle East is West Asia. You have to see things as they are. It is also written here. The Tang dynasty, 618 to 907 AD, in East Asia. So China is East Asia, and of course Middle East is West Asia. Islam was brought by, in the East Asia, and the Srivijaya kingdom, 7th to 14th century AD. So the Srivijaya kingdom from 7th to 14th century, so 7 centuries of domination AD. Islam was brought by traders from the Arabian Peninsula. They made voyages to Eastern world not only for trade. A.H. Jones argues that they are not ordinary traders. It is also found in the book Origin of Islam in Indonesia from Anzar Abdullah and Ismail Swardi Wake, International Journal of Pure and Applied Mathematics, volume 119, number 18, year 2018, page 1156. This theory is supported by the discovery of an Islamic community in the west coast of North Sumatra. So, settlers, in fact. Islamic settlers in the west coast of North Sumatra. This is in line with Hamka's opinion, citing a chronicle from China which states that a monk named Ai Tsing had stopped on the west coast of Sumatra in 674 AD. At that time, a group of Arabs were found who made settlements and settled in the area which was later identified as the area of Barus, central Tapanuli. Barus is an imperium city which is the center of the oldest civilization in the archipelago. The Greek governor based in Alexandria, Egypt, namely Claudius Ptolemy. So for those who don't know, Ptolemy, it's the same. The Ptolemies are descendant of one of the general of Alexander the Great. And also Cleopatra, for example, was from this southern Europe lineage, which dominated even Egypt. So the Greek governor based in Alexandria, Egypt, namely Claudius Ptolemy, in his ancient map has mentioned that on the west coast of Sumatra, there is a trading city called Barusai, which is in fact Barus. Even camphor, which became the main commodity, was brought to Egypt for embalming purpose during the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II around the 5th century BC. In fact, in French, we use embaumement, which is in fact when you remove the guts for preparing a sarcophage and the mummies to have a state of conservation for centuries. You remove all the vital organs, even the brain, and you replace it by camphor and stuff like that. So there is no bad smell and there is no deterioration of what is inside the body. So it was used as a means of conservation for the deceased pharaoh. So this camphor, which was one of the main ingredient of this process, was imported from Indonesia. And in that time, resources were not found everywhere. So you have to go to a certain place to take some special essence of wood or perfume or stuff like that, incense, and import them. It is a time where we were enabled to make something which not belong to an area grow in your land. So keep that in mind. So Barus was well known for its camphor. Since the time of the Egyptian pharaoh, there was some even trade at that time. Even camphor, which became its main commodity, was brought to Egypt for embalming purposes during the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II, around the 5th century before Christ. In this area, also found an ancient tomb with a tombstone inscribed with Sheikh Rukun ad-Din, who died in 672 AD, and the tomb of Sheikh Usuluddin, which is about 7 meters long. This is proof that Islam has entered Indonesia since the 7th century AD, or during the leadership of Muawiyah bin Abu Sufyan, so the well-known founder of the cursed Umayyad dynasty, the first caliph of the Umayyad dynasty. This theory was later referred to as the Mecca theory. This is proof that Islam has entered Indonesia since the 7th century AD, or during the leadership of Muawiyah bin Abu Sufyan. The first caliph of the Umayyad dynasty. This theory was later referred as the Mecca theory. This is and so this is also found in the same book, Origin of Islam in Indonesia, by Anzar Abdullah and Ismail Swardi, in the page 1163 to 1167. While the second opinion states that Islam originated on the west coast of India, while the second opinion states that Islam, so there is proof for the first opinion, because they have tomb with marking of the date of departure of the deceased personalities. While the second opinion states that Islam originated on the west coast of India, namely Gujarat and Malabar, the person who first came up with this opinion was Penchak, professor of the Malay language at Leiden University, the Netherlands. So, a man from the colonial ex-European power in place in Indonesia. So there is a conflict of agenda clearly here. Then developed again by Christian Snoek Hurgronje, another Hollandaise. He stated that Islam did not only originate from Gujarat, but also from Coromandel, a city originating from southern India. So a lot of fallacies for an already proved point. And it's also reported in Islamisasi Nusantara, Analysis terhadap Diskursus para Sejarawan Adabiyah, volume 18, number 35, August 2016, page 18, from Husseini Husda. Other historians such as J.P. Moquet, so maybe a French, Jean-Paul, maybe, Moquet, R.A. Kern, and Hussein Jaya Ningrat and Haji Agus Salim also support this theory. So this is more a theory of Westerners. This figure argues that Islam came to Indonesia brought by the Gujarat people in the 13th century AD. This is based on study and the research on manuscripts, tomb coins, and colonial archives that have been found using the point of view of philology and archaeology. And it is very important to note that, because using the point of view of philology and archaeology is in fact removed proofs like the early trading between West Asia, even more than West Asia, Egypt, with Indonesia, and also West Asia with Middle East and Indonesia, and also the proof of the tombs which were discovered of Rukunuddin and Usuluddin, with states of their demise in near Barus. And also know that archaeology in the Western definition is from a postulate, very strange postulate. For example, many people don't know that in European archaeology, if you don't find the tool that serve to build something, a thing is not considered to have exist. And of course, it don't work like this every time. So in optimal condition, you can't find the tool used to do something, to crave something, etc. But it don't mean that the object that was designed by a lost tool don't exist. This is a completely fake approach of archaeology, of science. So archaeology is not a science when you see how it is used by European and Westerners. Archaeology is in fact used by this power because they also had during history stolen a lot. So they have most of the tools to prove or don't prove a point in a certain way. And they tend to not accept what escape from their control and what can undermine their dominance. So you have to take this in mind. Normally, when you truly search something of the past, it can be in a hadith, it can be a religious tradition and stuff like that, you scrutinize the elements, qara'in, the things that emerge from the tajalli, the manifested world. So there is like low frequencies on the unseen, and there is some materialization in form of maybe text, historical text, transmitted in form of customs, which was preserved, and you can see the clear influence and link between the 2 points. Also by an object, also by a cataclysmic event of the time, attested by many of the miracles, for example, are seen by numerous civilizations at the same time, don't hold the same interpretation, but are recorded, for example, like a flood, like a stuff like that. So there is some proof, but this proof can only be analyzed in an objective way and not a way which restricts and we remove all the panel of possible proofs in the realm of archaeology. So that's why the archaeological system of the West is flawed, because it is highly materialistic in its philosophical postulate. So this is the problem. That's why it's not a sense. It's use syllogic approach to prove or invalidate stuff. And it obeys the need of the powers, the need of the society. So it is not the truth. It is politics. It is conditioned truth by the benefits you earn, by denying it or accepting it. Supporting evidence for this theory comes from travel record of a traveler from Venice named Marco Polo. So, if something don't exist in the book of Marco Polo, it never happened. So Marco Polo is the ultimate truth for the history of Indonesia, a place he never go. Named Marco Polo in the 13th century AD, and a traveler from Morocco, namely Ibn Battuta, in the 14th century AD. So, History of Islamic Civilization, page 186, Fatah, gratitude, etc. So this is not some proof. It is not some proof because there is proof of settlement by tombs and by date. This is objective proofs. But the absence of mention is not a proof. But in Western Occidental approach, it is the ultimate proof. So that is why the archaeological science are fluid, and many of the scholars of archaeology are in fact imposters. They have no share in the area of knowledge. At that time, the tomb of Sultan Malik al-Salih was found in Samudra Pasai with the number of 17 Dhul Hijjah 831 Hijri, which correspond 27 September 1297 AD. A Western historian, J.P. Moquet, through his observation, stated that there are similarities between the tombstone contained in the tomb with the existing tombstone in Gujarat, India. So, a man from France came, look at a tomb in Indonesia, and found, in his poor knowledge of aesthetics of the region, of the East, is not his region, found there was similarity between tombs of this man and tomb of a specific region of India. And so this is the proof of the guy. So they don't accept real tombs with inscription of date in Sumatra, in Barus, northern Sumatra, but they can prove the Indian origin of Muslim just by similarities of the design of a tomb of a late man and the tomb present in the same region, and they call it a proof. You know, you see the problem with this approach. So there is a proof in Sumatra, and there is a mere link in with Gujarat theory, but they choose this one. So Western historian Jean-Paul Moquet, through his observation, stated that there are similarities between the tombstone contained in the tomb with the existing tombstones in Gujarat, India. Likewise, the tombstone found in the tomb of Maulana Malik Ibrahim Gresik, dated from 822 Hijriya, so 1419 AD, and is found in the book of Husseini Husda, page 18 and 19 to 19. This theory is known as the Gujarat theory, which states that Islam came to Indonesia from Gujarat, India. So this is the slim proofs of the Gujarat theory. a proof that are not even proofs, but which gain popularity in the Western agenda for obvious reason. It should be noted that these two theories are the most accepted opinion by the majority of historians. However, it is possible that there are other historians with different arguments. The emergence of Persian theory and Chinese theory, which focuses on the similarities of cultural elements that develop in the life of the Islamic community in Indonesia, is a natural thing because any historical research cannot be separated from the perspective and interpretation of the researchers on the data found. So in general, the development of Islam in Indonesia is divided into three periods. First, the arrival of Islamic traders to the archipelago around the 7th century AD. And this is, in fact, the entry of Islam in Indonesia. Second, the emergence of Islamic community in several coastal areas of the archipelago as a continuation of the contact between Islamic traders and the indigenous population. And there is no contradiction with that. So, but the first encounter was in the 7th century. Third, the establishment of Islamic kingdoms, which are thought to have emerged in the 13th century AD, stems from the founding of the Samudera Pasai kingdom as the first Islamic kingdom in the archipelago. At first, Islamic communities were only found in the coastal area of North Sumatra and east of the Malacca Strait. Only since the Aceh kingdom carried out its political expansion in the 16th and 17th century AD, the process of Islamization could be intensified in the interior areas. Meanwhile, the process of Islamization in Java is estimated to have occurred since the 11th century AD. This is supported by the discovery of the tomb of Fatima bint Maymun in Leran, Greek, which reads the number 475 Hijri, so 1082 AD. Towards the end of the 13th century AD and the century after, evidence of the process of Islamization in Java began to be found, both in the form of tombs such as those of Troloyo, Trowulan, and Gresik, as well as foreign news such as from Mahuan in 1416 AD, which stated that the process of Islamization had occurred in the coastal area of Java, even reaching the center of the archipelago. Majapahit Kingdom. So, Badr Yatim, History of Islamic Civilization, page 193 to 197. The figures who played an important role in the Islamization process in Java were the ulama, so the savant in religion scholars, who were members of a council known as the Wali Songo, so external Muslim dignitaries from the Wali Songo da'wah. The spread of Islam was carried out wisely without using violence and accommodated with the tradition of the local community so that Islam could easily develop during that period. So interesting. It is not with the Quran in one hand and the sword in the other hand. What that like a fake scholar of speaking language from Senegal called Tidiane Ndiaye used to say about Arab dignitaries or Muslim dignitaries for the case of Western Africa. The process of Islamization in other parts of Indonesia, such as Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Eastern Indonesia, especially Maluku, cannot be separated from the influence of trading activities with Muslim traders. This process has been going since the 14th century AD. A traveler from Portugal, Tom Pires, and Antonio Galvao argues that the Moluccans began to embrace Islam between the years 1040-60 to 1465 AD. In East Kalimantan, the first person to spread Islam was Dato, which is maybe a deformation of Hazratu, which means it is an honorific title, which means presence, excellence, presence, stuff like that. Datori Bandang and Tungang Paragang around the year 1575 AD. While the process of Islamization in Sulawesi occurred in the 15th century AD, then in the 16th century AD, the king of Goa and Talo officially converted to Islam. On September 22, 1605 AD to be exact. So you can see the same book I stated earlier, which is a book, History of Islamic Civilization of Badr Yatim, in page 199 and 200. The process of Islamization in the archipelago did not stop at the emergence of Islamic-style kingdoms, but continues to this day with methods, channels, and approach that continue to develop according to the situation and condition of the community. So this is the end of this part. So very interesting insight of on the development and entry of Islam as a faith in the archipelago of Indonesia. And you can see the difference of approach. Muslims are quite silent in terms of forces and revendication, but the factual elements, by the grace of God, give them the upper hand on this particular part of history of Indonesia. This is the end of this video. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. التمس الدعاء. الله معكم. إلى اللقاء. مع السلامة.